Today is May 7th, 2020. It is 7 o'clock p.m. We have numerous things on the agenda. Before I begin, participation will be via virtual means only. Pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law C-30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Marlborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation. The public may participate in this meeting via remote participation. A link to the website for the meeting will be provided on the city's website, on the city public meeting calendar, and on the Conservation Commission website, or at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. To access the city website, go to www.marlborough-ma.gov and choose calendar and click on May 7th, 2020, meeting date. First thing I want to do is call the roll of the commission members. First, Dennis Demers.
Here.
William Dunbar.
Bill, are you still with us?
William Dunbar.
Let me see if he's still on our list here.
He's on the list.
Hey, Bill, can you unmute yourself and tell us you're here? Bill?
Sorry, I am here.
Okay.
Karen Paquin.
Here.
John Scarron, absent. Alan White, absent. David Williams.
Present.
Present. Okay. First item on the agenda is the minutes from the March 5th, April 9th, and April 16th, 2020 meetings.
And March 5th, too.
And yeah, I mentioned March 5th. I would accept they were in your packet. I will accept the motion to accept and place on file. Is there anybody else? Motion is made and seconded to accept and place on file. I'll read the roll. Myself, Ed Clancy, yay. Dennis Demers.
Yay.
William Dunbar.
Yes.
Karen Paquin.
Yes.
David Williams.
Yes.
Okay. 7 yea, 5 yea, they are approved. First on the agenda is a public hearing. This is a continuation of a public hearing for a notice of intent of 43 Red Spring Road, James Moran. Proposal is to replace an existing single-family home and upgrade the septic system next to the Fort Meadow Reservoir. Is there anyone here to speak on the matter? Here to speak on the matter.
Jim Moran, are you in the audience here? And if you are, can you unmute yourself?
Is James Moran out there?
Or anybody to speak about 43 Red Spring Road?
Yeah.
Well, that's odd. He gave me all the stuff to review. Maybe he's waiting in the waiting room. No.
Is there anybody out there on Red Spring Road?
Well, I don't see them.
Okay.
So we can just go to the other stuff on the very end of the
We're gonna
agenda.
have to-
That's not time.
Because the next hearing isn't supposed to begin until 7:15. So I'm going to, because there are 7 items in the public hearings on the agenda, I'm going to go over to the draft order of conditions for Poria Drive for the city of Marlborough, DPW. This is a project down on at the Front Drive to Marlborough High School, which is going to service the new elementary school plus also the present Marlborough High School. They had to widen the road, make improvements to the road, and they were going to create some parking along the side by the newly renovated softball field. Priscilla put together the draft out of conditions. I'm just going to jump over here to the site specific, because everything else prior to that is just boilerplate. I'll read. This is under site-specific conditions. This is erosion control construction sequencing. The contractor and/or project engineer shall be responsible for regular inspections of the erosion controls on at least a weekly basis and prior to and immediately after, within 12 hours, each storm event of a half inch or more. Necessary repairs and maintenance of the erosion control devices shall be made expeditiously. These inspections shall be described in the reports required in the condition below. Said contractor, 32, said contractor project engineer will report by email to the commission weekly during construction, summarizing the work that has been completed, compliance of the project with the order of conditions, and the status of the erosion controls. Will also include his or her recommendations on actions needed and report compliance with recommendations. Failure on the part of the contractor to implement the recommendations will be a violation of the terms and conditions of the permits issued for the project. These weekly reports from the consultant shall begin as soon as the work begins on the site. Excuse me. The applicant, property owner, and/or site contractor shall be responsible for notifying the Conservation Commission in an expeditious manner if any visible siltation of the wetlands occurs. Immediate measures shall be taken to control the siltation source and to restore any impacted areas. 34. Large piles of soil and other materials shall not be stockpiled closer than 50 feet to any wetland resource area without the approval of the conservation officer. All large stockpiles will be maintained in a stabilized condition with erosion control in place and approved by the conservation officer. Earth material stockpiles shall not be allowed immediately adjacent to the perimeter siltation barriers on drain inlets. Long-term stockpiles over 30 days shall be shaped, stabilized, and circled with erosion controls. The contractor shall ensure that the stockpile locations are not interfering with the drainage or erosion control during construction. 35. During construction and until the site is stable, all silty water must be filtered through a dewatering sedimentation trap until such time as the water runs clean. At no point shall silty water be discharged into the wetlands or streams or off-site drainage systems without first being filtered. 36. Prior to requesting a certificate of compliance, the applicant or its agent shall clean all drainage pipes and catch basins of accumulated sediment and debris. All unpaved disturbed areas shall be stabilized with vegetation. End of conditions. Those were the conditions as created by our agent. Would there be anything that you would like to add? Okay, hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve. Entertain a motion to approve out there.
I move to approve the orders of conditions as written.
Okay, motion to approve has been made and seconded.
I'll
Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, first, Dennis Demers,
Yes.
William Dunbar,
Yes.
Karen Paquin,
Yes.
David Williams,
Yes.
Edward Clancy, yes. 5 yea, they are approved. Okay, let's see, the time is 7:10. Let's see, moving on, we had a certificate of compliance for 41 Boyden Drive.
They haven't put up their fence yet, so we're gonna hold off on that one.
Okay, they haven't put up the fence yet. Okay. Next was correspondence and other business, the 2020-2021 hunting and fishing plan summary of the Assabet River National Wildlife Refuge. Dave, can you comment on this? Dave Williams?
Okay. You want me to comment on this?
Yeah, if you have, you have more insight, you spend more time over there than anybody.
Yeah, it's one of these things where the federal government says we have no choice. Actually, we give up, we have a lottery for permits. And to be honest with you, it's just like the desert. You don't see a lot of hunters down there. But they have increased, they want to put bear on it and
Fox.
and fox and coyote and some other things. But, I don't know if we're going to get that many hunters to participate.
Well, in the past, I've been over there during the deer season, and I did encounter several deer hunters in my ride through there on my bicycle. I made darn sure that I wear my blaze orange when I go over there during that season. But this is a hunting and fishing regulation summary for the wildlife refuge.
And we're, so they just sent it to us just as FYI, so.
Yeah, it's informational. There are an awful lot of people that are using the area for recreation. I went through there on Sunday afternoon, and the place, you couldn't find a parking space.
Wow.
There are a lot of people utilizing it. I guess they're getting off into the woods for sure. But there are a lot of people riding in there too. But Dave, were they going to open up that section that's closed presently?
I don't know. I've never seen a map, but I know there's certain areas that aren't open. I don't know exactly what areas there.
Yeah, I know that you have that north unit that goes way up to where the old radar site was. I just wondered.
This is Karen Paquin. They do have all the maps and tables of which areas they're going to open. They're going to open up like 6,000 acres to bear hunting. I'm really not for that because I just don't think the bear population is robust enough. And I don't really understand why they're opening up fox, coyote, and bear. I'm all for the deer hunting, but I don't really understand why they're opening up to the other species.
No, I agree with you on that part. I don't think the bear population is quite large as yet. I think there was one that was determined over in there, Dave.
Yeah, we only have pictures of one. That's it.
Yeah.
And they don't really have the methodology or the funds to do the population studies either. It just seems like a strange thing to open up without knowing whether the populations are big enough to hunt.
Yeah. Interesting thing is that at 7 o'clock this morning, I looked out into my backyard. I had 7 foxes in my backyard, a mother and 5 kids. And talk about fun watching the kids rolling over with each other. They're like a pack of dogs having a great time. But here I am in the middle of the city.
So let's see if anybody's here for 43 Red Spring Road. Has anybody arrived? And if you have, the process is you either unmute yourself with the little microphone thing on the bar if you wave your across your screen, or if you're on a phone, you hit *6. Anybody here for 43 Red Spring Road? If not, I guess we can move to the next thing.
Okay. Moving on. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent. This is a continuation of a public hearing. This is for Route 20 reconstruction from Peters Ave to Marlborough Sudbury Town Line. Mass DOT proposes to reconstruct Route 20 from Peters Ave to the Marlborough Sudbury Town Line. They will. Okay, wait a minute. I was reading it off the screen. They replace deteriorated pavement
Sorry.
to a safe and acceptable lane and shoulder widths. Adding new sidewalks and providing upgrades to the existing drainage system, Several sections of this work are within the buffer zone to the wetlands. Who's here to speak on that?
Hi, Susan MacArthur from SDOT, and I'm here with Steve Tyler from Howard Stein Hudson. Steve, you want to take it?
Sure, I'll proceed. Good evening, everyone. So we're here on the continuation. Do you want me to just move right into responses to the questions?
Yes.
So from
If you want to look at something else, let you first, that's fine, but it's up to you.
Oh, I think so. So I'm basically reading from the document you have up on the screen right now. The first question responding to the Conservation Commission asked, please describe if any changes in drainage conditions will occur on the south side of Route 20 at Broadmeadow Brook as a result of the proposed improvements. So in summary from this memo, that location represents design point 3, and because of the addition of sidewalks, the additional impervious area with the sidewalks, the curbing, and the need to capture everything in a closed drainage system now due to the curbing, there is an increase at that point discharge. It's still essentially the same area and same watershed, is just getting to that particular point in a greater amount sooner than previous, but still within the watershed. And the numbers at that point are: 1, the existing impervious area increases by about 72,000 square feet because of this sidewalk, and potentially slight increase in length and the increase in road width. And the pre-development 10-year storm goes from 12.83%. I'm on the top of page 2 reading that. Just above question 2, the pre-development versus post-development discharge rate for the 10-year storm is at that point is 12.83 CFS versus 17.2 CFS. And for, looks like I have a typo here, and for the next level storm event, which I'll have to go back into the document and see what that actual storm event is before I quote it, increases from 21.49 cubic feet to 26.46 cubic feet per second. And I should tell you what those Sorry, I didn't know till now that I had typoed and put the same year storm event. I think it's a 2-year and a 10-year, so I think the typo was actually on the first one.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. So that's the 2 years storm versus the I want to make sure I get this right. Excuse me. 21, 29. So the second number is actually the 100-year storm event. And the first number is it is noted correctly, is the 10-year. So the design flow rate for the 10-year storm event is 12.83 cubic feet per second versus 17.02 cubic feet per second. And for the 100-year storm event is 21.49 cubic feet per second versus 26.46 0.46 cubic feet per second.
Okay, well, that makes sense because at 10-year storm, you know, if you're looking at, it said 10-year storm frequency, and it's 100, that means 100 year. So they just have to update the letter that we got from you.
Yeah.
Okay, the second question?
The second question pertained to
Burger King.
Burger King, and the question was whether or not there would be ponding in front of Burger King. So what I did was I went and looked back at the grading plan, and there shouldn't be ponding. There's actually a fair grade there, 1% or greater typically, and that from the memo is it basically grades from, if looking at Burger King, and Burger King is on the north. Priscilla, do you have the other plan I sent you? Maybe.
So you had the
Yeah,
plan.
I'm just trying to open it up. Give me a second, so I'll try that. But go ahead and talk about the rest of it, and I'll see if I can find it.
When she pulls, basically, as you know, Burger King has 2 driveways, and the drainage it flows from the easterlymost driveway to the westerlymost driveway. I did verify there is a constant slope between both driveways. There's one catch basin at about the halfway point between the 2 driveways. And then at the westerlymost driveway, there's actually 2 catch basins there because that's an area where it starts to go back uphill. So there's one catch basin catching the flow coming downhill from west to east, and one catching drainage flowing from east to west.
Okay.
So, Steve, I can't find, for some reason, I can't open it while I'm in this mode, but I have the plans from, you know, the construction plans. Do you want me to open those or not really?
If you can open up the construction plans, I can get you to the same sheet if the commission would like to see that grading plan.
Okay. You know what sheet it might be?
It's going to be sheet 140. You don't have that many. So on the upper right is going to be grading plan. Oh no, you only have a partial set of the construction plans, Priscilla. That's why I sent you a separate sheet. So it's not in those.
Oh, okay. All right. Mind. All right, I can share those with the commission, and if they have any more questions, they can ask.
Well, I think they were fine. They're going to change the grade there. That section of the road right there presently is a throttle point from a 4-lane road down to a 2-lane.
Correct, and it does under the proposed condition as well. And I think if there is a ponding issue there now, looking at the grading now, it should no longer exist. The gutter line does have a consistent grade. There's a good enough difference to where it can certainly be built that way. The change in grade from the easterly driveway to the center point is over a foot total vertically. And then from that approximate center between the 2 driveways and the next catch basin, it's just under a foot total vertically. So that's a distance of 100 feet between both of those points. That's a pretty good vertical change. One foot vertical versus 100 feet horizontal gives you about a 1% grade on the gutter line. So I think that question will definitely be satisfied on the reconstruction.
Okay, question 3 about Hager Pond, the sedimentation.
Yes. The question 3 is will the project consider dredging out existing sediment at the existing intermittent stream outlet located on the northwest corner of Hager Pond? So we reached out to Mass DOT and the district office, and it has been, the response is that Mass DOT has not used sand on their roads for several years. And I know that to be true for the DPW in Spencer. And they do not think that the sedimentation is Mass DOT's responsibility. Also, they went back and looked at some old satellite photos and saw clear indications of numerous construction activities occurring up gradient in that watershed. And so Mass DOT is, that's their sediment and will not be dredging out the sediment of the pond at this time.
Does the Mass DOT have any maintenance logs of the maintenance of the fan that would be developing at the mouths, the outlets into the pond? Do they have records? Mass DOT, maintenance records. I know the city of Marlborough goes into the lakes, and they remove any sedimentation caused by the sanding of roads. We've discontinued the process of sanding of roads, and we've gone to pretty much straight salt. Now, that was only maybe a matter of about 2 or 3 years ago. But I have never seen any maintenance done by Mass DOT on that, and they used to use a lot of sand right there on that hill. You know, I still maintain that they should be responsible for at least getting some of the material out of there so that the culvert would function.
I mean, I can check with the district as far as maintenance records.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact date when they stopped using sand, but it has been a number of years. Yeah,
I would say it's been a matter of about 3 years. Dennis, how long has it been since they
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is Priscilla. So my only question for Mass DOT is whether when you're doing that, some of the restoration of that riprap wall, whether there's a possibility of removing some of the sediments that's there, just because it's really shallow. I mean, you know, you're pretty much standing in, you know, a couple inches to 6 inches of water there, perhaps.
I mean, like I said, I can ask them, but they seemed pretty adamant they didn't want to go there, and it also may require additional permitting. You know, like a water quality dredge permit if we were to take some of that out of there.
That's what I think the problem is. You know, they're afraid to touch it.
All right, I was just thinking, you know, during construction, it might be a useful way to do it just as a construction thing, but
Sure.
we can kind of keep looking at that perhaps.
Okay.
Sometimes, you know, when you dredge material out of a pond like that, you say, where do you put it?
Yeah.
Right.
Where you haul it off to.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we go on to the construction of the Wayside, Hager Street and Wayside Inn Road?
So that question, I think, was more of a local question. The question was, is there a Mass DOT approved permitted new driveway access curb cut opening for the property east of Hager Street / Wayside Inn Road on the south side of Route 20? And this is me paraphrasing my interpretation of the Conservation Commission's question. So if it needs clarification, please feel free to do so. I perceive the question as the Concom observed that the property owner has recently created a new driveway access to Route 20 and is dragging dirt and debris into the road. The Conservation Commission would like to know if there is a Mass authorized access there or not to help them address the concerns there. So Susan reached out to the District 3 office and we were able to confirm that there is not a permitted new curb cut at that location, and Mass DOT's permit section will be reaching out to them with regard to that opening.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems.
Okay, this is Priscilla, and I will be meeting with that owner, so I will let them know that Mass DOT may be reaching out to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things that they are doing is that they're hauling in, looks like fill material from another site, and they're stacking it all along the edge of the road there, right along the edge of Route 20, behind their fence. So.
Yes, I've talked to him, and I will be meeting with him hopefully next Monday.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else, Priscilla?
No, I guess, I mean, this is a big, large project and, I guess we had looked at all of the impacted areas last time. I didn't know if the commission had any further questions about the area on Broad Meadow Brook, because they're on the upland side, they're doing, or the upstream side, they're doing quite a bit of clearing work. So I didn't know if anybody had any more questions about that particular. I'm gonna see if I can show this plan. So this was the plan. Can you see this one? It's colored plan.
Yeah, we see the color.
Okay. So, oh no, no, this is down at Hager Street. Sorry. So I don't know. So again, from a like, how do we condition this thing? If anybody has any questions, this is Hager Pond, and I'll go back up to the other one. So I didn't know if anybody in the committee or the commission wants to have any comments about that, or the construction of the riprap slope. They will be putting some, I mean, this is a new drain that comes in through here, and then they will be putting some plants plugged into the riprap slope as well. So I didn't know if anybody had any thoughts about that.
No, they're gonna have to widen the road on the other side for the sidewalk. And they're going to take a section of the paving that they presently have and use that as a sidewalk. So they're shifting the road actually from one side to the other. So I think I don't think the impact right there wouldn't be that great. They have to create a new head wall.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll go up to the next one. I think it's up, the one that was for Broad Meadow. So this was the, oops, I just jumped it. So here, whoops, it's going too fast.
They can't see us. Doesn't look like that guy with the glasses is looking.
Whoops, let's see if I got where it jumped to. Have I passed it, Steve? I can't figure it out.
It's the other one.
I passed it once, but let's see if
it's further up.
Yeah.
Push it up, up.
There we go. Ah! Sorry, guys.
Yeah, just slightly.
Should be down one.
Down one.
Yeah.
Tap it once.
Oh, Jim Moran is having a hard time signing in. Scott, let's see. Oh.
Attendee.
No, I guess. I don't know, keep jumping on me, sorry.
You had it, and it went away.
Here we go. All right.
Right there, you got it.
Okay, so any committee members have any, or commission members have any comments on this? There is some replication and temporary impacts and permanent impacts. The one reason I'm not too worried about this is it's full of Japanese knotweed, so this might help. I guess the question to Mass Highway is, once you take all of this out, I mean, the Japanese knotweed goes far, so I don't know what your thoughts are, Sue or Steve, about kind of how to control that in the future.
I think we included, and Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, an invasive species plan or spec, I should say, invasive species spec on how to deal with the knotweed. Okay.
Was
Steve?
that on the plan, Steve, or was it in the NOI documents?
I don't know that it's in the NOI documents or the plan per se, because it typically appears in the technical specifications. But
okay.
There is the invasive species specification requires them to them being the contractor to retain an invasive species specialist, properly handle and treat the soils, at least try to do their, eliminate the invasive, you know how tough knotweed is. It's one of those things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
last for the depths unknown and life unknown. But they'll do their best with the soils that they manipulate on site. So I think certainly when the project's done, you'll see that knocked back. And then, what the knotweed does, because it's a very seedy plant as well, is really just gonna, it's gonna be a natural effect, from that point in the future.
Is it possible to send us the specs so that I just want to be able to reference it in the order so that when we do a pre-construction meeting, we can talk about that and be more specific?
Yeah, Priscilla, I can send you that. Yeah.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay.
Because this is a public meeting, if there's anyone that wants to be asked questions or wants to be heard on the matter, please let us know right now.
Yes, I would like to be heard.
Yes.
So state your name and just state your name and.
My name is Steve Peck. I am a resident in Joland Village, which borders the brook that you're talking about on this particular map, Broadmeadow Brook. And it appears there's going to be somewhat of an increase during heavy flows into this brook. The FEMA flood map indicates that the flood zone borders on the property of Joland Village, and if there was even a slight increase to this floodplain, all of the homes will be flooded.
There's a question out there, Steve, or somebody from the.
That is a statement. I just want you to be aware that all of the homes will be flooded in Joland Village if there is any increase in the height of the floodplain. It is right on the border.
Okay, so
since you're saying there's going to be more water because you're putting in a bigger pipe and there's a higher flow, even in the 10-year look at it, this should be taken into consideration, and whatever you need to do to stop that impact. There is, as far as I can see, between the two properties, Joland Village and there's a storage facility next door, there is not a lot of room. If that water rises there, all of the homes along Victoria Drive will flood and probably be destroyed. They are mobile homes.
Yeah. Steve, are you increasing the size of the pipe under the road?
The drainage, because of the increase in pervious area, there is an increase in the drainage system. But the increase that I described is an increase in peak flow at that discharge point. There's not an increase in volume per se. So with regard to flood elevation, it's not predicting an increase in flood elevation. It's just the rate at which the water gets to that point under the period of the storm.
So you're talking about velocity, increasing the velocity.
Yes. And in fact, with regard to the floodplain in this area, that's one of the reasons why the project limits extend so far to the north, because with the extension of that culvert on the north side, it does fill some of the flood storage area. So we needed to extend the limits to the north so that we could replicate that flood storage volume that was lost by the extension of the culvert at the same elevation. So the flood storage mitigation is taken into consideration at this location already.
It does say in your technical information that a 12-inch pipe is going to be increased to a 24-inch pipe.
You are correct, and I did agree that we are increasing the pipe, and that's exactly what it is, from a 12 to a 24. And that's because of the additional impervious area that's picked up by the closed system. So that's the point, and that's the point where the ask was made at. Because of the closed system, there is an increase in velocity during the peak flow of the storm at that point. There's not an increase in volume, which is flood related. The velocity and peak velocity at a certain point is where the stormwater is directed within that watershed. So it's still in the same watershed, the same volume of water that would contribute to the flood. Flooding before and after is still the same volume. It gets to that point faster at the peak point of the storm.
Not only will the Jolene homes be flooded, but it will flood, and there's only I believe, a 4 to 5 foot difference in elevation between that point and Route 20, according to the elevation maps. And so a nominal increase here, or should there be any blockage, or as we may be aware, a lot of the pervious infrastructure there is going to be soon to be replaced with impervious infrastructure. We could end up flooding Route 20.
Steve, could there ever be a possibility of an overtopping of that head wall and flooding over Route 20?
Any flows from the north are going to be contributory from other areas. This pipe discharges to the south. So the backup to the north is all contributory from places other than Route 20.
Okay, so it's not Route 20 that is contributing to the increase in pavement on Route 20 that's increasing the volume.
Not the volume, but the velocity at which it gets.
Velocity. Okay. Hello? Do we time out here? Hello?
I'm listening.
But I have nothing here on my screen right now.
We can hear.
How did that work? You should have, the plan should be on the screen.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
I figured it out. It times out.
So Ed, just as a point of, is there anything muffling your mic? Because you're a little bit muffled. Is there anything in front of your mic or?
No,
Okay.
maybe the distance. You want me to get closer?
I don't know.
No, I have it sitting on a pedestal here.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay,
any other comments on this? I guess we can take those comments into consideration. I can pass them by our engineer as well, just to make sure that we've covered that base and that we're not increasing any, that we're addressing those issues that you've raised.
Are the documents that we are currently seeing going to be made available to the public?
I think some of these might be online, and if they're not, I can add them. I think we made a packet together, and I don't know if this is in that packet or not, but it was in last week's or 2 weeks ago packet. So one way, if you don't find it, let me know, and I can get it to you.
Thank you.
okay. Is there anyone else who wants to be heard in the matter? Any members of the commission? How should we proceed, Priscilla? Do you want to continue it or?
So we can continue it and we can and get a few of those questions answered, and I can draft some conditions for the next meeting too, so that we don't sort of delay it too much, but we can at least see if we can make sure we're addressing all of those questions.
Okay, so in other words, what we're
So
gonna be doing,
continue,
we're gonna be continuing it to the May 21st meeting,
okay?
okay?
Can I ask, Steve Peck, what was the name of that complex you're talking about? And I think you're referring to the north side of Route 20 there.
I'm actually referring to the south side.
Okay. And the complex?
It is called Joe Len Mobile Home Village.
Okay.
It's between the self-storage area and
And the hill.
you know, the brook's in between.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna be continuing this on to the next meeting, which would be on the 21st. Okay?
Okay,
Okay, so that's,
thanks, Sue and Steve.
All right.
Anything else that you want from us, or are you good?
I'll send that spec over.
Okay.
Steve, what else are we? You're gonna check on the flood storage?
Yeah, I'll look into that question a little further.
Okay.
And we'll see you on the first.
okay, thank you very much for
Thank
being here tonight, Steve, and so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next public hearing. This is a request for determination of applicability. for
So
19
just a second, Ed, I just have to see if Jim Moran did come in. He was having a hard time at getting into the system, so let me see if I can see him.
I don't think there's
Priscilla,
24
I can call him in now.
Okay, should we do it now or do you want to wait, Ed?
Why don't we do it right now?
Okay,
All right, just give me one moment.
okay. I will bring back his plans.
Hello, James.
Hello? Yes, Jim Moran speaking.
You're on with Priscilla.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I had trouble signing in tonight.
That's okay. So can you see the screen or can you not?
I cannot. I'm not set
Okay.
up that way. I know the plan pretty well. I got the plan in front of me.
Okay. So why don't you give us an overview of the changes that were made to the plan, and then and then Ed can open it up to comments or questions.
Okay. So the changes we made several changes trying to bring the plan up to speed. First of all, I talked to the building commissioner for the city, and I added some grading for him. And he thought through the discussions I had with him that this plan would be acceptable for him for a building permit, because I know that came up. So that I thought was most important. Then the other thing I did was I added the trees that we're proposing to remove. And then I showed two other planting areas, new replacement trees to the west, 8 oaks and 4 white pines. And then we have, Priscilla had asked me to add a planting arrangement on the existing driveway to protect that BBW, which is on the left-hand side coming into the drive. So we got some forsythia going in there with some high bush blueberry. So we did add the top of concrete, which is also known as the sill top of foundation, at 98.5. So that sits about 6 inches out of grade, which is a requirement under the building code. The back of the structure, if you look at the foundation floor, compare that to the original grade, you're about 3.5 feet into the existing grade. And then if you look at the note, it talks about stepping the foundation down with the grade as long as there's a 6-inch minimum exposure. That's another building code requirement.
That light.
So we added the decks that was asked to add. Also, most importantly, I guess, is the homeowner, not the landowner here, agreed to put in a new artesian well, and we showed that. We would decommission to Board of Health standards the old hand dug well. All that would be done prior to a building permit being sought. I think that's it. So we had 5 or 6 adjustments. Oh, we also showed we showed the proposed utility poles. It would be required because it's more than like 300 feet. So there'd be 3 poles that would be required to relocate the wiring that's at the rear of the proposed home. So
Okay.
that would be it for the changes.
Yeah. Okay, the question is that I'm looking at the location of the new artesian well that they want to drill. How many
Yes.
feet away from the edge of the lake is it?
I'll be right with you. Just give me one moment.
I'm looking at, I don't know what the scale is that you're using, so.
Yeah, it's 1 inch equals 20 feet.
So it's like it's 20 feet?
1 inch equals 20 feet, so it's going to be more than an inch. I'm just calling it up on it. Okay, just 1 moment. It's 33, roughly 34 feet off the edge between wetland flag 6 and 7.
Hey, Bill Dunbar, how far off, what's the disturbance area around the lake? You should know.
What
Well,
is the what?
20,
The setback for a house on the lake.
30 feet.
Other various things.
30. Yeah.
What is it, 30 feet?
Yes.
It is 30 feet.
30 feet. Okay, so it's 34 feet.
Yes.
Okay, the concern that I have is when they're drilling the well, what happens with the tailings? They're going to have to set something up to,
Yeah, there'll be like a 4-bay. There'll be a hole dug where the tailings will go into, and it'll be lined with silt fence and hay bales on the down gradient side.
Yeah, and then they're going to abandon the hand dug well,
Yes.
fill it in.
We would have to pull a permit through the Board of Health Department for the city to do that.
Okay.
They oversee all the wells being decommissioned. Same as with the old cesspool, we'll have to decommission that. That will require a permit through the Board of Health also.
Do you have any idea what the groundwater level is there in that house? At what level?
Well, if you look at the idea, we did do test holes that John Garside witnessed with the Board of Health. I know that where the groundwater is, where the system is going, and also basically where the proposed home's going. If you look at test hole 2, we didn't have any groundwater. We had standing water at 68 inches. If you look at test hole 2, which was witnessed by John Garside, we had weeping water at 60. So we had estimated season high water table at 4 feet.
Oh, what would that elevation be? 95
Excuse
feet?
me?
What's the elevation then? 95 or 94?
Yeah, if you look at test hole 90, so you got elevation test hole 2 at 99.76.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've got the water at that. I don't have a test hole right at that location where the home is.
Yeah. See, I'm just looking at the foundation, and you have, on the foundation, you have all of your footings and things like that. You're gonna have to dig, are you gonna be digging below groundwater?
Yeah, the home will have a perimeter drain attached to it. That's also a requirement of the building code to protect it from groundwater entering the foundation.
Yeah. No, I'm just looking at the finished floor elevation is at 90. What's the level of the lake?
Well, the level of the lake is way down. I would say the last, I got a shot at wetland flag 9, which is at about 90. But the water is below there because there's a wall there and it's about 2 feet, approximately 2 feet. I would say the water elevation currently right now, was there the other day, is about 88 on that wall between, say, wetland flag 6, 7, 8, and 9.
So my feeling is that you're gonna, when you put in the foundation, you get groundwater and you're gonna have to pump.
Yeah, we might. I don't know. We didn't get to that point. I mean, we would practice, construction standards and in some instances, what we've got under the order of conditions from other municipalities that we've worked in is, in the order of conditions that we get on approval would spell out any kind of construction that the approving authority would want. That usually comes in the order of conditions. Like if you had some concerns on the well, tailings and the construction of the foundation, that would all come to me in an order of conditions.
Yeah. So in other words, in the order of conditions, there most likely going to be a section for groundwater and how you dealt with the groundwater. So
yeah.
I'm out of questions. Any other members from the board, please?
Yes, Eddie, can I be heard? Dennis somewhere else? Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Dennis.
I didn't hear the.
I didn't ask the question yet. Hello?
Go ahead, Dennis.
My question is, Jim, I don't want to be a pain, but your plan doesn't show silt fence and hay bales. That's standard requirement. That should be on the plan, showing us. Basically,
I think it does, though.
No, it don't.
I see the line on there. Hang on a minute.
Plan
Yeah, it does. It says if you look at right beside the proposed home to the right, there's a note there that says silt fence and water limit of work, and you can follow that line all the way around the home and all the way up it goes up past utility pole 35.
Well, normally they.
I'm showing it I'm just showing it with the arrow. You can see it. But
Yeah, it goes all the way up. I got it going all the way up to elevation 100, which is the left-hand side of the driveway. It comes down, it goes over the benchmark, which is in the nail. Then it comes around, sweeps to the pond side, or the reservoir side, I should say, of the existing home, and then it shoots all the way up and goes in front of pole 35. Yeah. And I labeled that line silt fence and water limit of work.
Okay, well, I'll concede that one because normally
I don't see the label. I do see the line, but I don't see the label. This is Priscilla. So
if you look, come into the driveway, Priscilla, look to the left as you get to the end of the driveway.
Yeah.
As you pull into the driveway, just imagine yourself pulling into the driveway.
I see it here.
Yep.
Okay. Just not well defined.
It was on the existing plan. Yeah.
Normally on the plan it gets depicted with a bunch of squares.
Right.
Okay.
And the same thing that Mr. Clancy referred to as is perimeter drain and perimeter drain outfall. I mean, you're putting the basement floor is 4 feet underwater. So obviously that has to happen. But I mean, you should show these on the plan. So basically, you're not going to be the GC. I think you're just the engineer.
Well, I'm not hired to build this house at this time. No.
Right. So there's going to be a general contractor that's going to handle this. What I'm referring to as is once it's on the plan, he can say, "Well, it's not on the plan. I don't have to do this."
Well, he has to meet if he's got a state license, he has to meet the building code, and it's a requirement under the building code.
Yeah, well, I've worked in construction for 50 years, and let me tell you, there's a lot of things, excuses. Well, I didn't see it. Well, I didn't have to. But if it's on the plan, it has to be adhered to. That's the only thing. And to go from there. That's my point that I'm making on it. Now, I had three things. I had the water, perimeter drain, and the silt fence hay bales, which, I mean, you have that laid out, but I like to see it in some sort of a, squares or dash dots on there, not on a straight line.
Yep.
That's all. And then the other thing was obviously this house being dug, you're going to generate quite a bit of material. You're not showing what's happening with it and where it's going. I mean, it can't be just thrown out on the ground and put back. It's got to be tucked away. That should be a no.
Well, I got a lot of yards needed to build that septic system, or whoever's going to build that septic system. I would assume we're going to be trucking in a lot more material that comes out of that foundation than what's needed to bring out the breakout on the grading on the septic system. So we won't be tossing it around. We'll be using it for the grading of the septic system, or one would use it for the grading of the septic system.
True, you will, but your digging in the system is going to generate quite a bit too, because you have.
No, we'll be bringing in quite a bit of material, septic sand and others. There's substantial grading that has to happen to install that system to Title V compliance. My guess right now, off the top of my head, is probably 250 yards of general fill needed because of the breakout requirements that are scheduled in Title V.
That's fine. That's fine. I didn't calculate because I don't know. I didn't calculate. My guess, you got about 500 yards coming out of Solo. So we still got to get.
No, there's not 500 yards coming out of Toho at all. I mean, because the grade comes down, by the time we get into the back, I mean, it's a rectangle box, so the math's pretty easy. My guess, you have about 150 to 200 yards coming out of the cellar hole at max. The grade does drop from the front of the home to the rear of the home by basically 4 feet.
My questions are answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Jim, this is Bill Dunbar. Pretty much
Okay.
dead center above existing house location. You've got 50-foot wetland buffer. Is that from the stream or is that from the lake?
It's from the actually edge of the BVW, which is the top of the stream location. It drops before it goes in the stream, and I always usually delineate the top of the slope, so that's where it's not like the stream channel itself. There's some vegetation that's attached to it. I would classify that channel coming down as a bordering vegetated wetland.
Thank you.
I have another question. The size of the house, there's no dimensions on the house.
The plan is to scale. It's 1 inch equals 20 feet, but roughly the house is 26 by 33.
Yeah, because there's no dimensions on the plan. Any other questions from members of the board? Okay, I'll throw it to anybody out there in cyberspace. If you have any questions, please come forward.
And you can unmute yourself with the mic or *6 if you're on a phone.
So nobody out there in cyber world. Any other questions from members of the commission? Okay, Priscilla, how do you want to proceed?
So I guess it sounds like we wanted a few more things on the plan, and then I can draft some conditions for the next meeting, but we can also have Jim give us a few more details on the plan as well, and then we can move through that way.
Okay. Okay, so
Does that sound okay, Jim?
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate that.
Okay.
We'll continue it to May 21st. Okay, so that is contingent to May 21st. Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jim.
Yeah. Okay, next on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 190 Sudbury Street, Susan Gottslich. Replacing a deteriorating wooden head wall with new concrete block head wall and installing an underlayment fabric and riprap stone in culvert pipe approachment area in order to keep sediment out. Who's here to speak on the matter?
Susan Gotchlick, the homeowner.
Good evening. Can you explain what you're trying to do here?
Okay, so this house is 55 years old. I've lived here for 15 years. The driveway started flooding and I had no idea why. So I hired New England Enterprises to come in and give me an estimate on what it would take to fix. He contacted Priscilla. Priscilla gave them permission to rip off. There's a catch basin, it turns out, that I didn't know about because there's a cover over it. You can't see it from Google Earth, but there's a cover over it. It was made out of what looks like railroad ties. So Priscilla gave them permission to remove those railroad ties so we could see what we're dealing with. What it is it's a catch basin, and then there's a culvert pipe where I've drawn it going under my driveway, and then it goes over to a stream, probably about 35, 40 feet to the left on this diagram that you're looking at. And what had happened is it had filled up with silt and so forth. So we cleaned it up. It's draining just fine. It's draining into the stream like it always has. But the catch basin, the head wall, the whole thing's made out of wood that looks like old railroad ties. I don't know if they are or not, but what we want to do is replace the one wall that's crumbling with a concrete wall, and then do what he said, which I think up the top of it and finish it up.
Okay. So the pipe doesn't have to be replaced?
Nope, not going to touch any of that.
Yeah, I went down by there, I looked at it, you know, it looked like a big mess at the time when I was there. I can see where, you know, it's like a depressed area right in front of the culvert. Are you gonna recreate that? To me, it looks like there's some established like a pool, little pool in front of that culvert at one time.
Yes, Ed, this is Priscilla. I'll just sort of explain what I saw. I'm trying to pull up my picture and I can't pull it up for some reason. I can see it, but I can't load it. So, but what has happened here is that there's a square. It's like a big trough. The water from the stream comes down. Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
So the water comes down here and then it comes into this box.
Right.
And then in the box, there's a pipe that comes out here, and then it comes all the way here and discharges just about where my cursor is now.
Yeah, right.
And so when the water was going over the driveway, there was just a blockage. This pipe isn't very big. So they unblocked the pipe and jetted that just to see what was happening. And then we have these railroad ties that are along here that are just deteriorating. So the interesting thing is that it becomes it's like a big bathtub, but this drops into this bathtub and then under the driveway. I don't understand why that was built that way 50 years ago, or what the challenge was that they were trying to meet. My thought is that because there's quite a drop between the stream channel here and the pipe, is that when they pull that out, they're going to have to put in some. When they talked to me the first time, they said they just needed to put a head wall in here, but I don't know when they're going to have to do something with these slopes and maybe put in some stone. And Susan, what do you know what he was planning to do, or had you not figured that out yet?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I have a full estimate, and it looked pretty good. He's gonna do a little bit of evening out, like you're saying. It's you know, there's some slopage going down into it, so he was gonna even it out a little so that the slope wouldn't be quite as dramatic, I think.
Right.
I think the one part that's, you know, most of that thing's in good shape, but the one wall is starting to crumble. He was going to replace that, and then I believe he was going to cover it up. And then,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, primarily what you want to do is you want to put a concrete block wall along the edge of the driveway where the pipe is. And do you still want to recreate that depression, or do you just want to have the water come down and go through the pipe?
I don't think we'd move anything that was there. I think we just put the new head wall in.
Just a new head wall.
Right.
Yeah. Are you okay with that, Priscilla?
Well, I guess I want to see the design of the head wall. I know, I mean, if we're just doing a head wall here and some stone here, I guess I just need to understand what's happening when we're pulling out the, you know, because it's quite I'm trying to see if Scott can help me load this picture up, because it's I want to show it to you because it's an interesting, it's like a big bathtub, and so by pulling all of that out, there's maybe 3 or 4 feet of soil on all the sides that needs to be tapered down. So Susan, if I understanding correctly, and I was trying to find that picture while I was listening. So he's going to feather out the edges where the wood is right now. Is that what he's doing?
There's a picture on our screen right now.
Yep.
Oh, okay. How come I can't see it? Oh, yeah, that's right. So now you can see, can you see my arrow too?
Yeah.
Okay, so when she pulls out, so the pipe is here, it goes under the driveway that way. So it's about four pieces deep. So when they pull this out, there's going to be this raw wall that needs to be tapered out. So if this can be tapered this way and this can be tapered this way, and they put some kind of stone here, I guess that would be an acceptable design. But I guess I'm really looking to Dennis or anybody else who has some thoughts about what makes sense.
May I answer my 2 cents worth, please?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture very well right now, and I can see the tracks from the machine that was in there. Those sidewalls, which I know the young lady says are pretty good, they are rotted. I understand you want to correct that head wall with concrete, but my suggestion would be to exit all the wood and riprap it, and so it'll filter the water and stop the water from going down. Muddy water going down into the pipe and plugging it, and the grade can be changed relatively easy that way. Did you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. I heard you, and I think that's a good it's a good suggestion. So I guess Susan, what I haven't seen is sort of what he ultimately designed, and I guess we should look at that.
So I'm trying to find the estimate on my computer right now. I didn't know this would be so hard.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Looking at those railroad ties lengthwise, you're talking a distance of 8.
Hello?
At a maximum of about 14, 15 feet, and a width of about 5 or 6 feet.
Yes.
So that isn't a lot of stone involved in that.
No.
To make it a good riprap and clean the whole place up.
I'm really trying hard to find.
It's okay, Susan. I think what would be better is he and I had talked about it in general, but I hadn't seen anything. And so maybe what we should do is just continue this and then have him show me, and then we can decide what the next step is.
Susan, you were muted. My apologies. Priscilla, would you want to share the other document again?
Now, can you see that? No, I have to share it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, technical difficulties here. Oh, share. Okay, so I can share my screen, that one. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
So Priscilla, I have two questions. Number one, do you have pictures upstream from where your car was parked? And secondly, where does the water go when it comes out the other side?
So this is upstream, and my car was parked right here, and that's downstream, and I do have a picture of that, and I can send it to Scott, and he can see if he can load it, because for some reason I'm not able to do that with any dexterity.
And how is the pipe framed on the left? The way I'm looking at it, on the left-hand side, where your cursor is, what is is there railroad ties on the down stream side as well?
So it just comes into a pipe. You'll see the picture momentarily. It just kind of grades into a pipe that just comes out of the ground.
Mona,
So there's no real head wall there.
I can't believe you had me whispering that whole time.
And then it comes down and it goes under Sudbury Street into a wetland, and I think it goes back and around again. So it's sort of a meandering little thing.
A pipe. Did you hear it? Oh, you were up in the kitchen. There's a pipe that feeds the stream that goes under her driveways. Oh my God.
Yeah. Do you think we can get more information for the next meeting?
Yeah, I think that's good. And Susan, if you're muted, you have to unmute yourself either by the mic or by, if you're on the, I think you're on the computer. So.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah, I accidentally muted myself somehow or other and didn't know about it. Let me see if I can find, I probably can't, but I'm going to take one more. So I thought I scanned the, let me look real quick and see if I can find.
So there was this picture that you had submitted to us, that this shows the pipe underwater, the driveway is right here. And the water's coming this way. I don't know if Scott was able to get my other picture or not, but see.
Okay, I found the estimate. I'm sorry.
There's the other picture.
The new picture's up.
Okay, so this is the downstream side for to answer Bill's question. It's a pipe that kind of comes out at grade, goes right into the stream. There's another stream that comes this way that goes, and both of them converge here and then go underneath the roadway at a culvert.
Thank you, Priscilla. That explains a lot.
Okay.
So I found the estimate, and this is what it says. Excavate and remove all wood railroad ties in order to expose culvert pipe. All ties away for disposal. Clean culvert area and pipe of all mud and debris. Once clean, inspection, conduction of pipe, make repair if necessary. Construct new head wall with concrete modular wall block. Wall shall be approximately 40 feet by 3 feet, including underground portion. Behind wall shall be filled to slightly higher than driveway. Wall shall also create access to front yard with landscape equipment. I was talking about the landscapers being able to get their mowers up there. Upstream shall be cleaned out, remove mud and debris, install underlayment fabric on slopes and base of culvert stream area, and install 12 inches of 4-inch by 6-inch riprap drainage stone.
So I think we need to see a little bit more detail in a design. So I can talk to you about that, and I can talk to your contractor, and we can come up with a design. I think this is more than we had originally. He had said, I'm just ripping something out and replacing it in kind, and it was really no different. But this is much bigger project than just minor. So
Might be going beyond determination of applicability, Priscilla.
yeah.
Might be going.
So we could give her a positive determination tonight and have her come back with a notice of intent. That's a
Yeah.
possibility.
That's a possibility. You know, because I think that I think the scope of the project is a lot larger than what we thought it was going to be. I thought it was, you know, clean up something and go back to the use of the general use. But they're talking putting in a 40-foot wall, 3 feet high. There's an awful lot of work involved. So,
Okay, so then the commission could issue a positive determination and which just requires her to file a notice of intent, which is the full permit.
okay, so in other words, is there anybody else out there that would like to be heard? Anyone else out there inside the land? Okay, seeing none, declare the public hearing closed. I entertain a positive determination. Would somebody make that motion, please?
I will, Eddie. Dennis.
Dennis Demers makes a positive determination. It's seconded by the chair. I'll read the roll. Edward Clancy, yes. Dennis Demers.
Yes.
William Dunbar. William Dunbar.
Yeah.
Bill, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself? Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Ed.
Yeah. Yes. Karen Paquin.
Yes.
David Williams.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It is a positive determination, so they're going to have to file a notice of intent.
Okay. And Susan, I'll walk you through that. I can give you a call tomorrow. Susan, you're muted.
Okay, Susan, you
Thank you.
understand?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll walk you through that, and we can talk tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for CSX Transportation Incorporated to obtain confirmation of the boundaries of wetland resource areas adjacent to the CSX Railroad right-of-way in Marlborough as part of the railroad's 5-year vegetation management plan. Is there anyone out there to speak on the matter? Anyone from CSX? Anyone from CSX?
And if you're from CSX and you're on, you can just unmute yourself by the microphone or *6.
*6 on the telephone.
If they're not here, hello?
You'll need to reshare as well.
Okay, well, I don't know quite how to do that. I've been trying to figure out how to do that. Can you help me, Scott?
Yeah, so typical to what you were doing before with the little box.
Oh,
the arrow
the share
pointing up.
box. Okay, yeah, okay, I got it. All right. That's all coming back to me. Thank you very much. So is anybody here for CSX?
Okay.
So I guess we can just move this to the end because I think we're past our time anyway. So we can come back to this one and just talk about it.
Well, you know, we'll come back to it toward the end of the meeting.
Okay.
So we're going to move on. This is a continuation of public hearing under notice of intent for 339 Boston Post Road and adjoining parcels. James Driscoll, WP, Marlborough, Mass. Owner LLC proposes to construct a 4 multi-family residential building, garages, a pool, associated parking lots, dog park, and a community garden within the buffer zone, bordering land subject to the flooding and/or riverfront area. This is also known as the McGee Farm and more recently the Heritage Farm LLC. Who is here to speak on the matter?
Yes, Scott Goddard's here.
Hi, Scott.
You got David Robinson with Allen and Major Associates.
Brian Falk with Marek O'Connell. I'm also here.
Would you like us to go first, or would you like Priscilla to go first?
You guys can go first and you can tell me what you want to see. Hopefully I've loaded up what you need.
I think, yeah, I mean, the plan that you have up there is just the existing conditions cover type map, which
Yeah.
may or may not, I mean, it's fine for the purposes of this brief discussion. I think for the purposes of tonight, we should just briefly bring you up to speed with what's happened between now and the last public hearing. Again, this is Scott Goddard speaking first. So we've received some comments from the Department of Environmental Protection. They did their review, issued a file number, and had a number of comments. We also more recently received comments from Tom DiPerzio, city engineer, and I understand in talking to Priscilla earlier this afternoon that she may have some additional written comments that are still forthcoming. In addition to that, about an hour or so ago, I saw that we got a few letters from abutters as well that opined on the project. So from our side, as representing the applicant, here's where we are. We believe that all the comments have been helpful and we're thankful for them. We also believe that they are comments that can be addressed in a reasonable and professional way, and that the project can be modified in such a way to comply with all of the rules and regulations. So we have not submitted any new information since the last meeting, okay? But we do anticipate between now and the next meeting, we would like to be able to have a round of additional supplemental information, and then opportunity for Priscilla and Tom to then review our comments, and hopefully those are much more in alignment with the adjustments that are being sought by the department or the commission. So just in brief, if we look at what was asked by DEP, there was a comment. I'll go through a few of them very quickly. We do have a draft supplemental response, but we have to finalize that because of the more recent comments we've gotten. So one is there was a comment about an error with the reference number for the registry. We're correcting that, and we'll submit that on a revised WPA Form 3, where we've been requested for the borderland flooding planting program that we have completed internally, and we'll be submitting that to the commission with our supplemental package. We've also completed a full wildlife habitat evaluation for both the BLSF areas as well as the riverfront areas per the 96 wildlife habitat policy appendix B. So that will be forthcoming to the commission. Additionally, we've expanded upon the alternatives analysis, and two particular resources sort of require the alternatives analysis under the Wetland Protection Act. Under the riverfront area standards, there's an alternatives analysis to be considered, and that's more of an issue for a new development project where you have an undisturbed buffer riverfront area. In this case, we have some of our riverfront area. In fact, most of it has either previously developed or degraded. So there's some consideration with that in terms of the alternatives analysis. We believe that we're able to provide a situation where we have equivalently economic project that is a net benefit to the functions, values of the riverfront area, and will protect Broadmeadow Brook long-term better than its current condition. The second part of the alternatives analysis is less pertaining to the Wetland Protection Act, more pertaining to the forthcoming water quality certificate application. That is consideration of alternatives to alter the isolated vegetated wetland in the middle front portion of the site. We believe in that situation, our conclusion will be similar in that we have a fairly degraded, isolated vegetated wetland system in that horse paddock right now. Relocating it with a larger footprint in an area that's preserved in open space, not subject to farming activities, and not subject to the invasive species that dominate the current one. we believe we'll be able to give a better IVW, and that will be reviewed by DEP under the Water Quality Certificate Program. Beyond that, there was a request. I think that one other thing was the IVW kind of planting protocol, construction sequencing protocol. I think we can even build it in a way that has a better hydro period. Maybe we have a water feature more in the center of it, something of that nature that will be, I think, a benefit ecologically as well. Then the comments transitioned into sort of a hydrology discussion, and those comments are being addressed by Allen and Major Associates, which then spills into the comments by Tom DiPerzio, which were also largely stormwater related. But before I ask David Robinson to comment on those, I did want to address a couple of the small things brought up by the abutters in some of the comment letters. One in particular was there was a request as to whether or not the property next door, Victoria Lane, the trailer park association was properly notified. So we did find the green card that was signed by certified mail, and that was properly received and signed for by the association. Not every owner of one of the units there would be in receipt of the application notification. It would just go to the association. So it was sent there originally to one particular address that was on the assessor's office maps. That was returned to us by the postal service as not mailable. We then found the mailing address at the registry of deeds for the association, sent it to there, and it was signed for. So I sent that green card to Priscilla for appropriate notification. Other than that, there were some concerns by the abutters and citizens of Marlborough that the project may be sort of too dense or an environmentally sensitive area or filling wetlands or had some important wildlife comments of this kind of general nature. I think our responses in our supplemental package will be able to address those as well. So with that, I'd like to just let David Robinson from Allen and Major give an overview of where we're going with the modified requests on the stormwater management aspects of it, and then turn it back to the commission.
Yep, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Continuing with the hydrologic portions of the DEP comments, the first comment is the applicant should describe the two current crossings of Broadmeadow Brook and evaluate whether these crossings meet the Massachusetts streams crossing standards. If these are not currently met, can one or both crossings be replaced or modified to meet the standards? Additional information should be provided for the proposed wetland replication area, along with a commitment that all proposed strata will be established within 2 growing seasons. So we did discuss this a little bit at the last conservation hearing, and currently the applicant is not proposing to alter the stream crossings. They're currently proposed to remain undisturbed, and a proposed wetland replication plan has been prepared by Goddard Consulting and will be issued in the next submission. The next comment, the drainage report does not evaluate the existing versus proposed runoff from the portion of the project southwest of Broadmeadow Brook. In addition to the paved path, will there be other changes in cover type that will impact peak runoff from this area? Stormwater standards should be met to the greatest extent practicable for the paved walking way. Majority of the undeveloped upland is labeled as landscaped area. How will that be vegetated? So the southwest portion of Broadmeadow Brook will be incorporated into the drainage report we're currently revising for the next submission to the Marlborough Conservation Commission. No other changes in cover type aside from a small paved walking path area are proposed at this time, and undeveloped upland areas which are not proposed to be developed will remain as the existing cover. The final comment was related to total suspended solids, and the TSS removal sheet should be provided for all treatment trains. We'll provide those at the next iteration to demonstrate that we're meeting the 44% TSS removal requirements prior to infiltration. And it also gets into test pit data and how test pit data is important in determining the seasonal high groundwater at the proposed locations of our infiltration systems on site. We did go out and perform test pits, and the results of those will be incorporated into the revised drainage report. And we've also started to revise our grading and drainage scheme to incorporate the results of those. Goes on to say that LID measures, which are low impact development measures, are they available within a specific subcatchment at the southwest portion of the site? And that's LID measures such as a rain garden or a bioretention swale can be reviewed and incorporated to the maximum extent practicable for the next submission to conservation. And that wraps up the DEP portion. Moving on to the comments provided by City Engineer Tom DiPersio. I'll just paraphrase the first one as it's rather long, but basically there are extensive wetland and riverfront resources areas, including floodplain on the site associated with Broadmeadow Brook. Much of the property is not developable. It's a very dense development in the upland part of the property, significant impacts to buffer zones, and some floodplain filling is proposed. Abutting properties in the area have a history of flooding, and some residents have concerns about this. It's also important to note that the Mass DEP has completed the design of the construction or reconstruction of Boston Post Road. And these improvements will create approximately 30,000 square feet of new impervious area contributory to the brook immediately upstream from the site. New catch basins and piping may also decrease runoff concentration times to the brook. Both of these factors will likely increase peak runoff rates from Boston Post Road to the brook. Mr. DiPersio then goes on to say, I am in general agreement with the compensatory flood storage calculation methodology and the locations for the proposed grading to provide it. The design proposes an additional approximately 7,000 cubic feet of new flood storage over existing conditions. Given the flooding issues on abutting properties and the proposed Boston Post Road roadway improvements, I would recommend that the applicant evaluate the ability to provide additional flood storage. And then he goes on to say, while the applicant cannot be expected to design their stormwater infrastructure to mitigate the roadway drainage directly, an added factor of safety would help to account for the new roadway conditions. So I should preface this response, as Scott mentioned earlier, that we are currently in the process of updating our plans and reports to incorporate the Mass DEP and the city comments from the city engineer, which we recently received. The forthcoming revised notice of intent report prepared by Goddard Consulting will discuss how we have evaluated multiple iterations of site layouts. And each time we've gone through great lengths to reduce the impacts to the resource areas on site, including but not limited to bringing the development in tighter or closer to the developable area and away from resource areas, mitigating the impacts to those resource areas. We also, as he mentioned, provide compensatory flood storage on site, and we've revised the layout to reduce the riverfront disturbance to below. The layout is currently at under 10% of riverfront alterations per the Wetlands Protection Act regulations. We'll also be reviewing the Mass DOT plans we recently received, and we will address those in the forthcoming updated and revised drainage report. And it is noted in the comment letter, we have provided sufficient flood storage on site. We'll take it an extra step further and review any opportunity to feasibly increase compensatory flood storage on site to the maximum extent practicable. The next comment from Mr. DiPersio, the stormwater checklist notes that as a low impact development measure, disturbance to existing trees and shrubs has been minimized. This is questionable. Our response is most of the proposed area is already disturbed, and the applicant has attempted to leave as many trees and shrubs on site as practicable, but will revise the checklist accordingly in the revised drain report to uncheck that measure. Comment 3 from Mr. DiPersio, more detailed determination of seasonal high groundwater should be performed in the area of the proposed infiltration systems. Test pits should be dug, and soil redoxamorphic features should be determined to determine the seasonal high groundwater. We did go, as I mentioned previously, we did go out and perform test pits in the interim, and the drainage plan has been revised to accommodate these. And those test pit logs and updated drainage plans and updated drainage report will be provided in our next resubmission to the city. The drainage systems have been revised to accommodate a 2-foot vertical separation of groundwater, and a groundwater bounding analysis should not be required. And we'll submit that for the city to review. Comment 4 from Mr. DiPersio, gets into the analysis of the stormwater report and quantifying and tabulating runoff flow volumes as well as peak rates under existing and proposed conditions. The analysis should demonstrate that the volume of runoff is not increased by the development at each design point. So we did put together summary tables which indicate that the peak stormwater flows do not increase. In fact, they decrease the flows leaving the site, and we will update the drainage report to incorporate the runoff volumes to ensure that they are not increasing. Comment number 5, the sub-catchment areas in the existing conditions plan should be revised. The existing culvert under the track near the northwest property line should be analyzed as part of the sub-design points. Based on FEMA mapping, there is flow constraint and flooding associated with this culvert. The pre and post development peak flows of this culvert should be analyzed to determine the impacts of development on that component of flooding. The culvert should be analyzed and, and determined if an increase in size is required. And then the other 3 culverts on site should be similarly analyzed as sub-design points. The final design point at the confluence of the stream should be continued to be analyzed as the final analysis. That comment will be addressed in our revised and resubmitted drainage report. Comment 6 is a separate pre and post development runoff analysis of the remote parking area. That's an area to the east of the site known as Lot K, should be conducted independent of the overall site analysis, and treatment and or mitigation measures other than the porous pavement, which is currently proposed, is likely warranted. We'll certainly look at incorporating low impact development measures and pre-treatment measures for that lot, structural measures for that Lot K development. Number 7, there are some areas, including the rectangular paddock that exists to the south of the site. And the plans just do not indicate what landscaping will be there. A landscaping plan has been prepared by Goddard Consulting and will be incorporated in the revised notice of intent. And I didn't know if Goddard wants to expand upon that after I've finished with the last 2. The stormwater infiltration systems should have access covers to grade for future inspection and maintenance. The applicant takes no exception to that. Access covers will be incorporated in the next submission, and the erosion control plan should contain more details regarding construction sequencing and managing runoff during construction. The applicant will review the opportunity to improve the erosion control plan with regards to this comment. So at this time, I don't know if there's anything that Scott Goddard or Carlton want to add to that. To our responses to these DEP and city engineering comments at this time?
Not right now. I think, David, you handled it quite well.
Anybody else? I just have a question. In Tom DePercio's summary, he talks about mounding of groundwater. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yep. So basically what happens is when you are proposing infiltration at a stormwater system, the water infiltrates into the ground. And if it infiltrates at a quick rate, it tends to mound up in the center of the drainage area. And what triggers that is if you have less than 2 feet of separation between the bottom of your system, if it's stone or whatever, and the seasonally high estimated seasonal groundwater, then that would trigger the need for a mounding analysis. So we had performed, so he was saying that because we hadn't submitted test pit data, we can't prove that we require that 2 feet of vertical separation. So now in our revised drainage report, we've revised the grading, the drainage, and the report to show that we meet that 2 feet vertical separation at a minimum of 2 feet. And in some cases, it's greater than that. And therefore, we should not require the mounding analysis.
Yeah, because, I'm thinking of the high water table that they have presently on site. You put a sub-catchment system underneath the parking lot. And I go by there during the right after a storm. There's always water sitting out in the middle of those paddock areas. Because I'm looking at it, I'm saying to myself, well, how much fill are you going to bring onto the site to get above that high water table?
Yep. So that's a good question. There is a considerable amount of fill being brought into site to bring the site up so that we can maintain those separations to groundwater.
Yeah, Mike, okay, so how many yards of fill are you gonna bring in there?
I don't have that exact number. We did do a cut fill analysis, and I can provide that data to you.
You
But
know,
we're trying to mitigate as much as possible the amount of fill that's coming in.
Yeah, I take a look at, you know, this, the way that the site is right now, and to get into the site, you have to go down, onto it. So in other words, to bring it up to road level, you're gonna have to bring in a lot of fill. And basically, it looks as though you're gonna be just creating a new island out there in the middle of an old, in the floodplain. How high are you gonna actually go? What is the highest elevation?
It's a few feet. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's certainly something that we can provide with the cut fill analysis.
Yeah, because I take a look at the height of your parcel, and I'm looking at the parcel where the Jolyn mobile home park is. I'm not exactly sure if they're higher or lower. And if you're higher and they're lower, and you have a large flood, next thing you know, we're going to be flooding out all the people in Jolyn Park.
So that one I do know, and we do meet the existing grades right at the property line. So the way that it shakes out is we're meeting the existing grades right at the property line with that mobile home. So there's no real increase or decrease. It's what the existing grades are, what it is. We don't need a retaining wall or any large slopes on that side. It's very close to existing grade.
So what do you have for slopes? Are they just no walls? They just dirt slopes?
There are some retaining walls currently proposed on site.
Yeah.
Particularly on the eastern edge, so that we're not disturbing that 20-foot local no-touch wetlands buffer. And additionally, it provides some area for additional flood compensatory storage.
Yeah. No, I'm just concerned for the residents of Jolyn. You know, they do have the potential for flooding, you know, because, you know, my question would be is that, you know, you have presently there is a pipe that goes underneath that section of roadway going in the old track area. Is it going to be large enough to accommodate any excess flow?
So I will say, I don't have the exact answer to that, but I will say we're decreasing the flows leaving the site. We're installing those very, very large and you know, costly subsurface systems. And in addition to all of that, we're also revising our drainage reports per request from the city to increase our rainfall values to use extreme precipitation values. So that accommodates for a much more larger and intense storm. And we're going to have to increase the size of our systems in addition to providing the additional compensatory flood storage, which is greater than the existing conditions. We're also reducing what's leaving the site, and we're also using very large extreme precipitation Cornell values to design our systems with. So it's a very conservative design.
Yeah, you know, earlier this evening we had the Mass Highway in for the road improvements for Route 20 East, and they were talking about increasing the size of the culvert going underneath Route 20 from a 12 to a 24. So the amount of water that's going to be going down there, the volume will not be increased, but the velocity will be increased. So in other words, you have a higher velocity of water coming down that stream channel. And, you know, it's going to get there quicker. The same amount of water is going to get there, but it's going to get there quicker.
It's going to get there quicker, but it's going to be a smaller amount that's getting there. Mr. Tyler indicated that there would not be an increase in the volume of water.
That's what I said. I said the volume of the water would not increase, but the velocity would increase. Am I correct?
Understood, but the volume's not increasing.
Understood. That's what I just said.
Yeah. So we'll have to.
One of the residents from Jolyn asked the question. Maybe you can ask the question again. You have to unmute yourself.
Excuse me. I am the resident, and while the suggestion is the volume is not going to increase, I would suggest the volume will increase. The fact is, if you increase the current system cannot handle all the water. It is too small. So some of the water is currently dispersing elsewhere. And now we're going to increase the system from 12-inch pipe to 24-inch pipe. And so we will be able to handle all the water which was not handled before and is now going to be handled. So I expect the volume will increase somewhat.
Right. I think that's a question for the DOT.
Yeah, I think that maybe you should touch base with Steve Tyler and make sure that what his information that was given out earlier this evening is correct. You know, I understand the volume part and the velocity part. The velocity concerns me because it's just getting there quicker.
Understood.
That frequency, yeah.
Understood. That's something we'll certainly be in contact with Mass DOT to discuss the upcoming improvements that they're proposing.
Yeah. Any other questions, members of the board? Any questions from members of the board? Any other questions?
This is Bill Dunbar.
I have some comments. This is Priscilla. Was there another commission member wants to talk? No. So my comments were related to the stormwater standards, and so if they are going to adopt the Cornell standards, that's great, and I'm happy for that because that's the more conservative standard, so that's great. The other thing I was grappling with today was the degraded property. They've claimed that there's about an acre of degraded area, which gives them a little bit more leeway. I looked at some older maps, and so I will talk to Scott about that just to clarify that, because I'm not quite sure if that's I might have misunderstood how he calculated that. So we need to understand that, because that matters because of how much of the riverfront area they can disturb or not. It's part of that 10% thing. And then the other question was, in your alternatives analysis, have you looked at reducing the size of the buildings or just reducing the size of the whole project just to try to keep everything a little further out of this area? I know we have some, we're concerned about the Jolene properties upstream, and we're also concerned about the Helen Drive people downstream, and we're just trying to make sure that however we're doing this design, and it sounds like the designs are being conservative and they're trying to accommodate that, but we just need to look at that a little bit more closely, and so I'll be happy to see the new designs, and I just didn't know if that was going to incorporate any kind of reduction, if the analysis was going to look at any reduction in that. So I think those are just my comments at this point.
Okay. Is there any other, there are people out there watching in Cyberland. If you have a question or a comment, please come forward. State your name.
Ed.
Go right ahead.
Ed, this is Bill Dunbar. Has there been a property ownership change recently?
Does any of you know, maybe Brian Falk, do you know that?
With respect to our property?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
On December 9th, the property abutting this property that we're discussing was purchased by the Jolene Residents Association.
Right.
From the Vouchers family.
Correct. So that's the difference.
Yeah,
the homeowners association.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question that I'm asking is the McGee property, has it recently changed hands?
No, not that I'm aware.
Okay.
And this is Priscilla again. So I just think that there are a lot of issues that were raised both by engineering and by DEP that kind of will, that they're going to have to grapple with, and that's going to help us to understand this property better too. So once we get that, we'll have a better picture of the bigger of the whole project. Any other comments by anybody?
Comments out there? Any other questions from anyone that is watching in Cyberland?
Yes, this is Stephen Peck from 64 Victoria Lane in Jolen Mobile Home Park. I have a question, not so much a question, but a concern of where snow would be disposed of. I remember reading in one of the somewhere in the documents that it was going to be trucked away, and that is totally unrealistic. So a discussion of where the snow would be disposed of must be considered. Second, the school bus issue, which I don't think is an issue for the this particular discussion. I will leave it. But last would be the parking issue. And where would you put hundreds of cars? In looking at this particular plan, I'm not sure that it is totally answered. Okay, and also then the drainage from the parking areas to Route 20 and how that will be handled. In terms of conservation, I do not know if you consider sewage. And I don't know if this particular project plans on using on-site laundry facilities, which would dramatically increase the sewage needs. Thank you.
Okay, just a little thing about this whole process. Conservation is in the process of reviewing the project for the primarily for the Inland Protection Act, the Rivers Bill, and things like that. So we're only part of the process. The other part of the process is that if they're going to be doing anything within the floodplain zone, they have to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's part 2. And then part 3 would be the City Council special permit. And the City Council is really the one that would determine whether this the special permit would be allowed. So this is only part 1 of 3 parts. So City Council is down the line. Brian, when's the date for the public hearing on that?
City Council public hearing is scheduled for June 8th.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we don't know whether it's going to be inside a space or whether it's going to be out in the real world. So that is still another part. So
and I have there's a couple of letters that came in, and I can just summarize them. I can't seem to pull them up and put them on the screen, but I can summarize them. Should I do that now?
Yeah, well, if it's going to take any great length of time, we still have 2 more public hearings.
Yeah,
to go.
I'll just read who's sent comments. One was Jim Brown, who's the president of the Jolen Residents Association, and he was mainly concerned about having been notified. So I think that's been resolved, but I'll be talking to him. There is a long letter from Steve Peck, who's covered most of his stuff here. There is a letter from Maureen Letender, who's from 28 Westminster Drive. She had listened in at the last meeting. Let's see, she was just concerned about the impact of this development on the environment, and the environment's important. She understands that mitigation is an alternative to building on wetlands. So she just was trying to make sure that we're not balancing, economics against wetlands in the negative way. The other one was from, and I believe I sent these to the commission. It was from the woman who actually has her horses there on the farm, and how she had taken some pictures and showed us how wet the fields can get after a rain event and how much water is kind of being held there. So she was just concerned about that. The other thing, one was from Margaret McDougall from 178 Glen Street. And her comments was that she didn't want this to look like the Apex site, and she just doesn't want us to look like Framingham. So she wants us to protect open space. And I think that was it for this.
Yeah.
So those were the comments that were submitted in writing to us.
Okay, so at this point, I think that what we're going to be doing is we're going to be continuing this to May 21st.
I would ask that you also, in looking at the map that is being currently displayed, consider the fact that just to the south of this is the Sudbury Reservoir. And that is a water supply for a large segment of the population. So while a minor inconvenience here might be flooding, if the organization owning this property chose to use some sort of salt melter in the snow or some sort of fertilizer on the lawn, it could end up into the reservoir, and I would be very concerned about that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, so we're going to continue this discussion on May 21st. Is that all right with you, Scott? And
yep, that works fine.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're going to continue this to the 21st. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next on the agenda is a notice of intent. This is a continuation for Farm Road, map 73, parcel 14 and 15A. Michael Downey, the New England Center for Children Incorporated, proposes to construct a residential school building for the New England Center for Children with a footprint of 13,250 square feet. The proposal includes parking, drainage, and utilities. Some of the work is proposed within the buffer zone for a wetland, and this is across the street from the old airport. Anyone here to speak on that matter?
Yes, this is Vito Colonna.
Okay, Vito.
All right. I think Bill Pizzoni's here also. And Mike Downey, I think, is on the phone.
Yeah.
So we're continuing from last time. I don't know if you want, Priscilla, you want to catch everyone up, or you want me to just kind of go right into it?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead and just say what the changes were, and I can scroll through if you want me to.
Okay.
Particular sheet.
It's probably go to the third sheet, probably.
Okay.
Oh, I think we had. Okay, I sent in some other ones. It was just this evening. I think you had them up on the screen.
I may not have seen them.
I saw them on a different tab. I thought I saw them earlier, but they weren't. It's nothing major that you'd really kind of see on the screen anyway. Everything's basically essentially the same. The only thing we really changed was adding. We added some labels. We showed the 20-foot buffer. I think before we added the 25. And then we added the inspection ports on each row of the large infiltration system in the front. And then in the new package, we did have a landscape plan too, that just showed a little bit more detail about what was going to be landscaped up in the back side of the building there on that slope, basically. So other than that, the plans are essentially, the same. There weren't any major changes to anything.
Yeah. Okay. I had the question I had. Okay, you're going to have a 14-foot deep foundation.
Yeah.
Foundation. Yeah. You're going to have an awful lot of material coming out of the ground there.
Yeah.
Where are you going to stockpile it?
Well, the foundation itself is only in the center portion. It isn't the full building. So it isn't. So if it's kind of looking at it like it's a T, it's the main stem of that. That's the foundation portion, the basement. So there is going to be a good amount coming out of that hole. And so it would basically be stockpiling kind of to the right of that, in that green kind of level area that's currently cleared right now. So it'd keep it basically outside the buffer zone. Yeah, right where your cursor is right there. So that's the idea, would be kind of you pull it out, you put it right there. We can spread it. That area actually needs some fill. It's one of the areas that needs fill on site. So we can use it there, or anything excess could be taken off site right from there.
Yes, is it concern that, you know, if you're going to be removing a lot of material, going down 14 feet, putting in a pretty good sized foundation, you're going to have a lot of material coming out. And you want to make sure that you do not pile it within an area adjacent to the wetland.
Yeah.
One of the questions I also had at the last meeting was the width of the drive or sidewalk going around the building. And I'm not exactly sure. Did you run this by the fire chief to determine whether they would have to get a truck around there? Because if that's the case, you'd have to increase the width of that and move the building.
Yep. Yeah, so we started the site plan review process. We had one meeting with them, and we began to get some comments in. I don't think we got anything actually from fire. I think we got comments from police. Priscilla, I don't know if you got anything from fire.
Yeah, I think not for fire. He did say that he would look into that just to be sure. So we will.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can hear that.
What happened out there?
Somebody has background noise.
I don't know if William's trying to speak, but he has a lot of background noise. William Pizzoni.
Bill?
Oh, okay. So Bill, when you speak, you just have to turn yourself off real quick. So I don't have any other comments. I think I was looking forward to looking at the plans and the planting plan as well. So I can look at that once, since we just got them tonight.
You know, my feeling is that, you know, you're going to hit water when you dig that foundation. You definitely have to have a dewatering plan. You know, 14 feet is a long way to go.
We did do test pits right in that area, and we didn't hit any water. It was during the high water time, and we went down pretty deep. So I dug test hole 4, which is right in the middle of that foundation. We went down 12 feet. Yeah, and that's at 276-ish, so 12 feet, that would get us down to 264. So it'd be a foot below the finished floor of the basement. And that had no groundwater, no models. It's all real coarse gravel out there, so, you know, our basis is that it's basically level with the wetland elevation in that type of soil.
Yeah,
so we did dig down.
What's the level of the wetland at the highest level?
260.
260, and your basement floor is going to be at
265.
265. You're only a foot. So
5 feet.
264. 265 is going to be the cellar floor. You're going to have to go below that, you know, for a footing. So you're going to probably be in water. So we have
about 5 feet to play with. You know, 260 to 265. So yeah, and if they do hit it when they're doing when the footings go in, because, you know, those do go deeper. You know, they may have to have a dewatering plan for that. Anything would get pumped up, it would be outside the buffer, you know, up into that upland areas.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions. Any questions out there, members of the board? Any questions? Priscilla?
No, I have none. I think we have some new plans to look at. So what I would recommend is that we continue this to the next meeting. But if the plans look good, I can draft some conditions. I'll get those plans to everybody so you guys
Yeah.
can see them too. And I can draft some conditions for the next meeting if that makes sense.
Okay, if you would. So we'll continue this to May 21st.
May 21st. Okay.
Okay, guys, everybody out there?
So let's just make sure are all of our members, can you just like say that you're here so we'll make sure that we're all connected still?
Okay.
Okay.
Dennis, Bill Dunbar?
Here.
Okay, Karen, Taken?
Here.
Yeah. Dave Williams?
Here.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're still here.
We're still all here. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue this to the 12th.
To the 21st.
21st. Okay. One night. Okay, next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for Roosevelt Street, map 55, parcel 50, Carlos Marcelino, proposing to construct a single-family home on a vacant lot, portions of which are proposed within 100 feet of a buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and/or inland bank associated with an intermittent stream at the end of Roosevelt Street. Who's here to speak in the matter? Anybody out there speak on this?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Lemieux here with Hancock Associates.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you too. Go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
Hi, this is David Cowell with Hancock Associates. With me tonight, we have Jacob Lemieux, who's the project engineer, and we have Dan Brimser, who is the survey lead and the project manager for this project. This is our second hearing in the matter. As of our last hearing, we had given a presentation in request to permit a single-family house on an existing vacant lot, which is forested. And there were some remaining questions from the Conservation Commission in request for additional supporting information, which we've provided over the past week. There were some questions to engineering in the sewer line on the roadway. And if you guys would like to discuss that, I would ask Jacob Lemieux to take lead on that conversation. And then there were some questions about best management practices for construction on the project site itself. And that's something that I'd be, able to speak to.
Okay, Jeff, continue.
Okay. Well, I'll just go over the best management practices for erosion and sediment controls on site. And then I'll turn it over to Jacob and Dan to field questions pertaining to engineering and the sewer main. So I had, in the cover letter that I had sent with the notice of intent application, I carried a section that carried a few best management practices for sediment and erosion controls, soil management, whether or not dewatering would be required. And I'd be happy to just go over those briefly with you right now. And I think that some of the things that we'll discuss right now are very easy and very common, I think, conditions that commissions can actually condition right in the permit itself. So first and foremost, the primary sediment control that we have on site is our perimeter sediment control, which, as discussed at prior hearing, will be a silt fence entrenched into the ground to depth no less than 8 inches. And I believe the commission had also mentioned that they wanted a staked either fiber roll or straw wattle along that perimeter as well. So I think we would condition that the commission could condition that that's how the fence would be installed. There's also a lot of times the commission will put an interim condition in that says that once the erosion control is installed, that the commission may want opportunity to look at it as it's installed and approve it prior to initiation of groundwork. So that's a suggestion there. There will be vegetation clearing to clear the site. Invasive species will be removed wholesale with the vegetation within the footprint. And that is to the 50-foot no disturb zone, which, as we discussed under prior hearing, is associated with the public water protection zone attributed to the stream that's located off-site. All of that vegetative material will be removed off-site for suitable legal off-site disposal. And then when they get into the earthwork and actual ground disturbance, we don't anticipate that there may be a need for stockpiling. We don't know. They may, again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the contractor, and we'd like to permit this, giving them flexibility without knowing what their plans are. Preferential would be direct load and trucked off site rather than maintaining stockpiles on site. If the need does occur where they need to do temporary soil stockpiling on site, we would certainly give preference to locating those outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to maintain a distance no less than 100 feet to the wetlands. Given the site constraints, they may need to stockpile within the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone. If that does come up, that's something that, again, the commission can condition like an interim. If stockpiling is required within 100 or 50 feet to 100 feet, the applicant will submit a stockpiling plan for review and approval. But ideally, it would be in the 100-foot, outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. You guys can also condition that any stockpiling will be secondarily contained with a corral of additional sediment controls. So either fiber rolls or straw bottles or staked hay bales or fencing around these where the stockpile would be necessary. Moving on from there, we don't anticipate that dewatering is needed on site. However, anytime you're doing an excavation, in this case, creating that basin, another suggested condition would be that although dewatering is not anticipated, in the event that it becomes necessary, that the applicant would provide a dewatering plan for review and approval by the commission. And again, if they did need to dewater, there's several different BMPs for creating a dewatering basin or corral, where you have a discharge going through a filter bag that's corralled secondarily by staked hay bales, and preference would be given to locate it in a vegetated area outside of 100 feet to the wetland resource area. So if it comes up, that's the general game plan. We've carried BMPs to put silt sacks in the catch basin inlets on Roosevelt Street itself. That's detailed on the plans. We could also condition that if sediment tracking onto the public roadway is of concern, that they could install a stone sediment tracking apron at the construction entrance so that vehicles driving off of the site don't track sediment out onto the public roadway. And I think that sums it up in a nutshell, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions from the Conservation Commission pertaining to best management practices.
Okay. You're pretty much going to clear cut that entire lot, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just turned the volume up. I can hear you better now. One more time, Ed.
Yeah, it looks as though you're going to clear cut the entire lot.
Yes. With the exception of the 50-foot no disturb zone, which is on the lot, and there's no work on that.
Okay, so in other words, everything because it's very bony in there too. You know, looking at the lot, you get an awful lot of pumpkins in the ground. You also have a lot of bittersweet killing the trees. So
yes,
whoever does the land clearing really has to take and truck it away. You know, take it down,
right,
chuck it up, and truck it away. You know.
Yep. Yeah, a common thing. I mean, and working on another restoration site in Littleton, you know, sometimes contractors will ask, can I you know, chip and disperse the woody material somewhere on site? And that's, you know, especially when you're dealing with invasive species, that all of it needs to be removed off site. Yeah, we want a clean slate on this to get vegetation on there without invasives.
That's what I'd like to see, is that all of the vegetation that's presently on site, that it has to be cut, shall be removed from the site. Cannot be chipped and blown onto the site.
Yeah, that's a very fair prohibition to put right in the order.
Yeah. Now, I have a question about your sewer main.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Jacob Lemieux, our project engineer.
Okay, Jake.
Hi, Jacob Lemieux here.
This is the first time I've ever seen one. This type of a system. You're going to have a private pump system going all the way up the street.
It's going to be accepted as a public sewer force main.
A public. Where's the pump
Right,
station?
so each house has their own individual pump station designed with a gate valve. So it's gravity fed into the pump chamber, and then each lot has a force main a smaller force main that goes out to the force main collector in the street. And there's a gate valve on each individual force main line, so it can be turned off for maintenance.
No, can everybody on the street join in?
Yeah, the plan is that the design of the force main was done with the idea that it's going to be a public force main, so anybody on that street, whether they have a failing septic system or, it's a new construction, that it would be required to hook up to the force main just like any other public sewer in the roadway.
Yeah, see, the only thing is...
Ed, if this is Priscilla, if it makes sense, I'll just read something that Tom DePercio sent late this afternoon that just kind of explains that, so that you guys hear what he said. It says, "Hi, Priscilla. We have reviewed the plans for a low-pressure sewer force main on Roosevelt Street. This system is being proposed to serve 2 new building lots for which the commission is presently reviewing notices of intent. Although private sewer force mains are typically not allowed in the city right-of-way, we have approved this system in concept because the new low-pressure force main would provide access to the city sewer system for several existing homes that presently have septic systems. Since this area is in the watershed protection district, future elimination of the septic system is beneficial to the city. The individual sewer pumps at each home connected to this force main would remain private services. We will work with the engineers on any final plan details that need to be addressed. Jacob, I am not sure if attachment, and then Tim Collins had provided Jacob with some minor changes to the plan. So I guess I just wanted to say that just so that everybody was aware that that's how engineering is looking at this. It's a water supply protection district issue.
How big is the pipe?
Priscilla or Ed, can I say something on this?
Please. Please ask questions.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
I don't know, the city's not even looking at their own regulations. Required for individual sewer pumps, and that's why I'm saying this. It might require some changes. In the city of Marlborough regulations, require a 1,000-gallon tank with the pump set up. They have a whole set of plans that's required to go in, not E1s. Now that may change their whole layout and configuration and grading plans because of the 1,000-gallon tank that is required under the city of Marlborough ordinance.
See, that's the whole thing, is that if they're going to have to do something and put in a large tank, then they're going to have to show it on a plan. So,
right.
Jacob, have you talked this? I'm assuming you talked this through already with engineering. So can you just address that?
Yes, we're not anticipating any major changes or even changes to grading or additional tanks. We're working with engineering on getting the plans sorted out. If they wanted additional storage, there are larger E1 units that have potentially, up to and exceeding the capacity that of 1,000 gallons that was just said. But we'd be fine with maybe a condition to not allow work on the project or until force main has been approved and a letter has been provided to the Conservation Commission by Tom DePercio at the engineering department to that effect.
Well, my point is the plans are not right. You can't, you know, City of Marlborough regs, if you people read the pamphlet that is put out by the City of Marlborough, me as a licensed installer that I have, it says right in it, City of Marlborough requires 1,000-gallon pump change for 4-speed mains and other valve setups. That's not your typical setup that you got on paper now. That's all I'm pointing out.
Can you respond to that?
Well, you know, like I said, we're working with engineering on this, so if there's a requirement for that, I'm sure engineering would bring it up. And as I said, there are E1 units which have 1,000-gallon capacities if needed, and their footprint is basically the same. They're maybe a little wider, and the difference between the inlet and the outlet pipes are widened so that they have additional capacity, but we wouldn't have to adjust our site plan for that.
Well, if you're going to have to put in a tank, you would.
Well, the E1 unit itself it's like a barrel tank. It's not a sort of like the conventional concrete rectangular tank. So it's tall and circular. So the footprint of the tank itself wouldn't actually increase. The depth of the tank would increase, and it might get a small bit wider, but we have plenty of room there within the grading that we're doing now to accommodate a slightly larger footprint for the tank.
Now that tank, is the pump in that tank?
Yes.
Now, will that accommodate just that one house?
Yes.
Because you figure you're at the bottom of a hill, and you have, say, 4 or 5 other houses decide that they want to hook into it. Next thing you know, you have a power failure, and the pump system has gone on that one house. Now, are all the houses, is it hermetically sealed so that water can, the effluent would not be backing up or coming down the hill?
Yes, there's stop valves, curb valves on every house has an individual one. So if their system was failing, they lost their electricity, they could shut the valve. There are clean out and blowout manholes along the main. We've also submitted the force main design plan to you, and primarily the design was done by E1, so I'm not 100% on the specifics of it, but we've also submitted all of E1's design analysis materials to the engineering department.
What's the width of the pipe? How wide is the pipe?
Well, the force mains for each individual unit, I believe, are 1.5 inches, about 1.25 inch force main. And then the force main at the bottom of the street starts out at, I think, 1.5 inches, and then at a manhole up the street converts into a 3-inch force main.
Now, once you install this, and does the city take ownership of it?
Yes.
Oh, this is a new one. Usually there's a pump station at the bottom of the hill, and if there is a power failure, the pump station will still function because it has a backup generator. There's no backup generators on anything like this. And my fear is that, if some of the systems are not functioning properly, next thing you know, you're going to have effluent coming out onto the surface of the ground. I don't know how you stop that.
This is Dan Bremser. You wouldn't have effluent coming out on the surface of the ground because there's no outlet from the system onto the surface of the ground. The systems have check valves, backflow valves, so that it won't flow into the house. It's just like any other pump type system.
True. But, you know, all the way up the edge, all the way up the street, when you look at the profile of the street, it shows that you have risers. You have risers coming up from that line.
Yes. Excuse me.
No, I think I mentioned 2 weeks ago, Ed, that I'm probably your age, and all of these that I saw back 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago were just like you described. They would flow downhill into a chamber, and then the force main from there with a generator backup pumps it all up to where it's going. This system is a newer system. The E1 system is, and Jacob, I can check with you, it is DEP approved. It's an accepted new way of doing things in smaller cases like this, where you don't have the volume of effluent that you need, that would create the demand for the type of older, large-scale system that you and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. You know, see, my biggest concern is that, you know, you have an 1.5 inch line going underneath the street all the way up. It appears as though you have like cleanouts on it, but I don't know what these cleanouts are. Are they just a riser pipe with a shut-off valve in them, or what?
Yeah, they're risers with valves with cleanouts on the pipe, so that you can open the pipe up and blow it out if need be, or you know, scope it to find out a blockage or any kind of maintenance that you would need to do on the pipe main.
Yeah.
There's no actual. It's just a container for the valve, basically. I mean, for
I guess I'm gonna have to go to sewer school. This is something brand new. I know we had the Presby system. There were some houses that they built over by the old landfill, and with the Presby system, and they pumped up to the sewer trunk line.
Oh yeah, we've been doing a lot of the Presbys lately.
Yeah.
Another comment, Ed, Dennis.
Go ahead, Dennis.
That's the purpose why this 1,000-gallon tank was required by the city of Marlborough, to add extra storage in case of pump failure. The E1 is nothing but a 24-inch piece of corrugated plastic pipe standing vertically, and it holds about 15 gallons of effluent. That is not very much for a family with about 4 or 5 people in it, because it flows gravity into these things, and then it pumps from there. That's why Ronnie Lafreniere instituted this regulation with a 1,000-gallon chamber. It'll give the homeowners at least 2 or 3 days to get it corrected, and then it can also be pumped by a septic pumping service if need be.
Yeah.
That was the total purpose of the whole thing.
So Dennis, I will convey that to Tom and just see what his response to that is, because that makes it sounds pretty logical. So I'll definitely convey that to him, and then I'll let you guys know what his answers are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have no problem making that a conditional item, that if we need to add a 1,000-gallon tank on these to comply with the Marlborough regulations, we can make that change. Like Jacob said, it doesn't change any of the grading on the site. There's plenty of room to fit it in,
Yeah.
and it would just basically, from the site plan purposes, just adding a box, and then we'll just have to talk to the E1 people about what we need to change on the details.
Yeah.
Right, and the condition could probably just be something as simple as that we adhere to and are approved by all of engineering comments. And if you bring that up to Tom, he'll, I'm sure, look into it.
Basically, you can build a house, but the way it's designed right now, if you don't have a sewer system, nobody could live in it. So I think you're going to have to probably put in.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
You started to cut out, Ed. So can you just say whatever the last thing you said?
He coughed while I was talking. I think that the way the house is designed, you could not live in the house because there was no sewer to it. So you have to put in the sewer system probably first before or simultaneously with the construction of the house.
Correct. So, and that can just be a condition. I think we've talked about that. So that's good. Yep. So
Okay.
my suggestion is, I mean, I guess the question is, any other commission members have comments?
Yeah. Any other commission?
Yeah, I heard that there are two lots. Is the second lot that's not being shown or processed at the moment, is it uphill or downhill from this site?
It's downhill.
It's downhill. We're reconfiguring that site plan a little bit because the work limit line's a little closer to the proposed house location. And so we actually went out to locate the trees and get the drip radius on the trees that are right behind the 50-foot limit so that we can site the house accordingly. So that one will be coming in shortly. We just got to make some modifications to the site plan.
Okay.
So the dead end will be extended, or is it all on this site that you would put two houses?
So one of the things that we did originally is Mr. Marcolino bought, I believe it was 7 small lots from the original subdivision. We did an A&R plan about a year and a half ago to take those and create the 2 lots out of those 7 lots. And part of the agreement that we did with the planning board was to install a T turnaround with an easement on the lower lot, because this street doesn't have a turnaround. It goes straight and stops at a pile of rocks. And so we coordinated that with the fire chief and sized the T turnaround so that it would fit the largest piece of apparatus. And so it's actually a benefit to the town that this project goes through, because right now, even the plows going down Roosevelt, I don't know if they back onto private property or if they back up the hill, but there's no place to turn a plow around down there. There's no place to turn a fire truck down there. So that's part of this project. Pardon me?
So this second lot will have a similar sewage system?
Exactly.
Proposed,
yes.
Okay. Any other questions? So, Priscilla?
So I guess we can either we can continue this one, but I can again draft conditions. I mean, it sounds like we're really close, and if we just get the answers from Tom, they can make whatever adjustments needed on the plan, and then we can issue a order at the next meeting, if that makes sense.
Conceptually, I have no problem with the plan, with the house and construction and so on. It's just a concern that I have of the sewage system. That's all. So that's, if we can just continue it to the 12th or the 21st and get a comment from our city engineer. And that would be it. So if you would draft conditions at that point.
I can do that.
Okay. Anybody else?
There were a few neighbors who had made comments. Sorry, I forgot about that. Let's see. These were mostly questions for engineering from Peggy Giovanni. Let's see. She was just concerned about animals that live there and that sort of thing. So let me just see what else she said. Oops, it keeps jumping around. Construction vehicles on a small road. The road is in bad condition already, but I think once the sewer line is in, it'll probably they'll probably have to redo some of that roadway. So anyway, just general concern about construction. And then there was one other one. Oh, that's from Tom. Okay, I think that was it.
Okay. So we'll continue this to May 21st.
Okay.
We seem as though all we're doing is treading water here. We don't seem to finish stuff.
I know, but this next time we should just be able to open it, answer one question, read the conditions and be done. So
Yeah.
hopefully, let's cross our fingers that works.
Anything else out there? Are there any questions for anybody out there inside the land about the projects? Okay, now I think the only thing that we did not do is is there anybody out there for CSX? Anybody out there for CSX? None. Okay.
So we can continue that one anyway, because I didn't get a chance to walk the railroad tracks to see where they've marked them. They usually mark them slightly differently every year, so I will do that before the next meeting, and then we can finalize that one.
Yeah, okay. Okay, anything else, members of the board? Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Dennis?
I move to adjourn.
Karen, okay, motion to adjourn is made and seconded. All in favor? Edward Clancy, yes. Dennis Demers? Dennis? Yes? Unmute yourself.
Dennis, are you still with us?
He's still there, you can't hear him.
Oh, yeah. Dennis, you have to unmute yourself. Just hit that little microphone thing.
Yeah, it shows it muted.
There he is. You're
Okay.
still mute. You can wave and say, there you go.
Don't ask me how I got muted. I'm unmuting myself.
Okay. Motion to adjourn has been made. Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, Karen Paquin?
Yes.
Bill Dunbar?
Yes.
Dave Williams?
Yes.
Okay. 5 years, we are adjourned. Thank you.
9:42.
Hey,
All
Ed,
right, good night, everyone. Thank you
Ed,
for.
that house on